You don't have to have everything figured out. Having a plan certainly helps. I love plans. I love organization. I'm definitely one of those friends that I'm not the life of the party, but I'm the reason why the party happens.
If you really want to do something and it fits what you want, even though maybe the timing is not right for it, it's just to go and explore the opportunity because you never know.
Oh, terrific quote. Did I say that? Is it having the impact that you really want? Because the big metrics of likes and comments and stuff, yes, you can go viral, but I've got a viral video. I earned 30 quid from it. So that's the reality. And it's none of them are my ideal clients. We've extended to full production now, which means that we support from the first concept. We're truly global because I can literally say to my supplier, I have this client in Dubai who wants a pop-up studio. I need 2 mics set up, 3 cameras. I need a lighting pack. I need a videographer on site and also a lighting person. Can you provide those for me with a quote? You don't have to feel confident to be great at what you do. Give yourself a window of time and have some realistic goals in place to measure and check in with yourself and give you that boost that there is progress and you're doing fine. Oh, you need a trending audio, or do these B-roll videos with text over them and you get high play. That's not creativity, that's reductive and it flattens content. Creativity does lead you to your style and that is a process. And while it may feel cringe to try something new, it can also be I think it's very endearing to the people you're speaking to because they'll also see your evolution and they'll track that. And that's authenticity in itself.
This is the Teacher Talking Time podcast.
Hey everyone, I'm Andrew from the Teacher Talking Time podcast. Thanks for listening. Our featured entrepreneur today is none other than the great Laura Wilkes. Laura is a video and podcast producer who helps educators and experts record great content to grow their brand, something as entrepreneurs we know is vital to getting our brand out there into the world with all the noise that exists. She actually has her own production house, Communicating for Impact, and since launching that, Laura and her team have supported over 1,000 educators in creating real content that makes an impact. Laura is also the lead producer for global shows like Tassel Pop, Hamilton Brooks's Primary Futures, and the Educators Corner podcast. You can find out all about the work that she does on her website, communicatingforimpact.com. That's communicating-for-impact.com. That link is in the description of the show. There you can find the work that she does, grab her weekly newsletter, which is great, called The Producer's Edit, and explore all the programs, services, and content that she creates. It was great to chat to Laura, who we've known for quite a while, and we hope that she's another good example of entrepreneurship in education that doesn't take the traditional path. Leo and I hope you enjoy the conversation, and let's dive in. Laura, you may remember this, you may not, but we met, I'll use air quotes, met on LinkedIn. I was checking my messages yesterday to when our first LinkedIn conversation was 2 years ago, almost. So we're recording this in September. So December 2023, we had our first LinkedIn conversation. And it just reminded me, and now here we are doing a podcast together, but it kind of reminded me of how the word networking gets thrown around a lot, but how impactful and how important it can be in solo entrepreneurship or in the space that we're in. And great little conversations can turn into something cool. So we've been doing something together for 2 years.
That's wonderful, isn't it? Happy 2-year friendship anniversary to us. And I think it's wonderful that we live in an era, like our generation, we've gone from being very dependent on face-to-face interactions and who's in our locality to these wonderful online spaces that can bring people together. You're in Canada, I'm in Switzerland. We've never met in person, but through the wonderful means of LinkedIn in this case, we've been able to connect and find wonderful ways in which we can collaborate, which I think is just terrific.
It's very terrific. And I'm always happy to meet a fellow podcaster. I usually brag that I've been podcasting for a while, but you're one of the few people I think that I've met who have been podcasting longer than I have. So I'm very happy to always connect with a fellow podcaster.
We're a special bunch, aren't we? Like, left to our own devices, this whole episode would just be about microphones and tech and podcast
absolutely.
shows.
We could. I thought we'd be boring for everybody else, but I would love that. Let's dive in here. I think you're a very good example, and Leo and I, Leo couldn't make it today, but we're really excited to chat with you. I live by the philosophy that kind of like if you're an entrepreneur, your first business is rarely your last business. And we're going to highlight your story and talk about what you've been doing. Your different ventures and different things, I think, have highlighted that. Can you speak? Do you agree with that? Or can you kind of walk the listeners through your trajectory from your first business to what you're doing now with Communicating for Impact?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was actually clearing through my studio the other day and actually came across my first set of business cards for my first business venture that I had, which is always interesting to look at those sort of relics, so to speak, and reflect on that. So Communicating for Impact, most people won't know, isn't my first business. I have run other ventures, and I'm not counting my farming ventures that I had that my family will never laugh about.
Why not?
No, I don't think the chicken business is a good example. But my family were very supportive of me experimenting and things. But the first business, this is while I was working as an educator, was actually something called Knots and Knits, which was a craft piece. I love art and making creative things. So I actually created a lot of things like macrame, plant hangers, to other homeware that I sold from a store while I was still working as a full-time educator. So that was like my first venture into things. And that taught me the important lesson of scalability, because that business model was not scalable unless I flipped it into workshops and training others on how to engage in craft, which I think is obviously a viable business in itself. And there are great examples of that out there in the world. So that was my kind of first venture into just trying something for myself. And that was probably, 6-7 years ago now, I guess, maybe even longer. There's that COVID years in between, isn't there, where time went down a black wormhole. So yes, maybe
it's a
longer.
Weird red pill, blue pill era. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think that was a wonderful example of me just testing out something, trying it out with friends and supporters, and then taking it to market, literally taking it to market. So I went to actual markets, networked, met with fellow crafters, met with Chasing Threads as an example of crafter that I still follow, and I think her work is fantastic if folk want to follow her. And yeah, just to experience that whole kind of end-to-end journey of going from a concept to then putting it out there and doing the accounts and all that. It also taught me that not every passion should be turned into a business, which I think that's obviously out there quite a lot. People do talk about that, but actually experiencing that made me realize, I love my craft. I love doing art and stuff, but this isn't necessarily something I want to monetize. This is something I want to do for myself and for the joy of that it brings, and for the joy it brings to people around me in my community. Don't want to monetize it because it can make it become quite I don't know, it can take you down a different path to where you started. And I certainly experienced that. And then I have obviously Teasel Pop, which isn't a business, but it was certainly part of a portfolio building piece, which is the podcast. And we've been running it's well over 7 years now. It's about 7.5 years old since we started. And again, these little experiments and ventures into things have been very fundamental to informing Communicate for Impact, which is my production house. Lots of little steps and experiments, not huge businesses, but Communicate for Impact certainly isn't my first business.
I want to go back to, you said not all passions should be businesses, because I think that's very instructive. That's very interesting. Can you expound on that? Why do you say that? Because I think a lot of people listening, not that teachers view teaching as, maybe it is a passion. We get paid for it. We teach in a school. It's a job, but it's also a passion. Why for you? What were you afraid of? Or what did you feel like if you did monetize it, you would lose the passion? Or can you walk us through what that feeling was?
Yeah, I think with the example of doing crafts, for anybody who creates things with your hands, it can be very time demanding and physically demanding to create things to then market. So I remember one night when I had a big market day and I stayed up till 3 a.m. in the morning to prep everything and to create enough stock to go out. And to scale that, I'd obviously need to hire more staff or source other people to do the craft, which would mean then I'm not doing the craft. And then I'm not the kind of artist or crafter, whatever you want to call it, behind it. I think that kind of moment where I felt a bit like a factory line, just creating for the sake of volume to get the volume to the market. And I'm really glad I did it. It was brilliant. And it gave me confidence that I could do things like this and I could sell, and it wasn't so scary to put my stuff out there. Particularly when it's something so personal as a craft. That's very personal stuff. Because when people say they don't like it, that hurts your heart. Yeah, but that experience of kind of like feeling like I was almost like part of a factory line of doing something, and to make it viable, I'd have to outsource it, and then I wouldn't be able to do it. It just pulled me in two very different directions that felt very conflicting with the reason why I do arts and crafts, to bring me joy, relaxation, to have beautiful things. Like my friends, I see them when we have calls, I can see on the video chat, like, oh, there's the plant hanging with it that we created. Oh, it's gorgeous. Those sort of joyful moments are just why I do it, not to be like a, I don't know, Victorian factory worker, which is how it felt.
It sounds terrible, honestly. It sounds awful. And then you have to find a new hobby, right? If you then if that becomes the business, or that becomes what you, or where you spend most of your time, then what's your break from that? Then you'd have to find something else to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that because my hobby had become like the side hustle. So what were my other hobbies? I don't know, going to the gym, does that count? I don't know. Probably not.
If you want it to count, it counts. Absolutely. Yeah. You said something else interesting too earlier, where you said you were dabbling into it. So you're excluding the farming, but dabbling into selling something that you can do this. Was that something that you just wanted to try? Or was having a business, entrepreneurship, a path that you always saw for yourself? Maybe coming from a farming family? I'm going to make an assumption. I don't know. That is a business.
Yeah.
Or is your family supportive? Doesn't sound like the right word, but sometimes when adult children tell their parents, I'm going to work for myself, the reaction can be mixed. How did it go for you?
Yeah, no, I actually just thought about this today, but none of my immediate family actually have jobs in the traditional sense. And I realized that's quite a norm for us. So for me to say I was going out and doing my own thing, particularly when I started communicating for impact, and I left what was a very comfortable, I would say, by everyday standard, career as a director in education for a very large brand. My family didn't question it. They thought I'd be absolutely fine because obviously, yes, I do come from a farming family. My brother runs a very successful business in his own right as well. My other brother has always been a freelancer. I've never known him to do anything else. So these are very normal pathways for my immediate family. And when I talk about my brothers, they're my older brothers, so they're my role models as well. And seeing them succeed. And I've seen the path as well that it is a lot of challenge. Like with my eldest brother, there are periods of time when it's quieter and there's times when it's busy, and I see how he manages that. And also with my middle brother, he has been running a business for a long time now. And I've also seen how he grew that from the very basics with his business partner and how much sacrifice went into those initial years to get the clients, build the reputation, start getting the return clients, start scaling, and when to make those decisions to invest in having further staff. So yeah, I'm very lucky that I have those as examples, and I realize that's perhaps not what everybody else has, but you don't question your norm, right? When that's your reality, that's the way it is. Yeah.
Maybe if you had a traditional office job, that would be weird in your environment.
Yeah, that would be odd. Yeah. They would probably tell me like, you should why don't you just buy some land and start a croft or something like that? Yeah, get some chicken.
Okay, very interesting. Your resume is on, or your LinkedIn resume is on your profile. If you go through the roles that you've had, the businesses that you just mentioned, even working in China and Hong Kong, just from an outsider perspective, you seem to gravitate and thrive in roles where you're the boss, you're in charge, you're running the show. Working in Hong Kong, right? You were the director there for many years. What do you feel? What skills do you feel that allow you to thrive there? And are those things that this is probably an impossible question. I always ask this, so I'm sorry. But the nature-nurture debate, have you learned that? Is that something that people can learn? Or do you feel that you were just, based on now putting the pieces of the puzzle together, growing up in that environment, that allowed you to gravitate and thrive in those kind of roles?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think firstly, when I think about the first leadership role I had back in 2012, and I was given that opportunity, and the following promotions I got when I went into like national teacher trainer, for example, around South China, there were roles that I initially refused particularly the teacher trainer one. I remember that because I said to my mentor that I just didn't feel like I was ready. And I felt like there was other people that could do it, so I don't want to do it. And they persuaded me to do it. And I'm really glad they did, because I often didn't see myself as like somebody who was the cookie cutter version of a leader that perhaps I've seen in other scenarios. So comparing myself to that model, I felt that I wasn't, I don't know, polished enough, or maybe I was too soft, or whatever adjective you want to add into the gap. And the same also happened with the director role. I refused it and somebody else took it. And then when he went to leave, he was like, Laura, you're going to have it. You're going to take this role now. Like, you have to. You should have taken it in the first place. And he was right. And I think I also experienced the pain of being in a position where somebody who didn't want the role, when I should have stepped up, and it would have been best use of our strengths, the consequences that had on the team for everybody. And really, I've seen that happen a few times where I'm like, I just have to step up. So it's not something I gravitated towards. I was a bit hesitant at first. But I think over the years, I've gained a lot more confidence and learned also what leadership means for my version and what that can look like, and how it doesn't have to be, I don't know, whatever version is presented in the media or on social media included as well. It can look different for everyone, and the model of success is really created by yourself, not by other people's metrics. I don't know if that kind of gives you insight to the initial question you have.
Yeah.
So a bit of a reluctant leader, but then finding my own way, found my own vibe.
Brings forward many more questions that I have. Yeah, I love it. Well, I don't know if you're familiar with Adam Grant and his work, but one of his books is called Think Again. And it really prompts the reader to think again about many things that we know. And he didn't create this, but he references something called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which sounds like what you're describing, which is what is the confidence competence kind of scale. And he says that, or the theory goes that the majority of people who lack competence are very high in confidence. And the people who are actually highly competent actually, for some reason, lack confidence or have more humility. So as you're talking about declining these roles, when everyone listening knows that your competence level is quite high, that's what my mind is going. It's like that you're encompassing the Dunning-Kruger effect, where highly competent people actually don't feel as if they are, or they have lower confidence. As we learn more things, the more we learn, the more we know what we don't know, kind of thing. I'm curious what allowed you to accept those roles, and then how do you apply them now to what you're doing?
I think a lot of persuasion on the part of those initial leadership roles was the reason why I accepted it. And definitely, and I am very appreciative to my mentors for pushing me. I was very lucky I had somebody who was like, no, you're going to do this and you're going to be fine. And through that, like, learning that you don't have to feel confident to be great at what you do. Like, you don't need to feel or even believe that you can do it. And you don't even need to feel that great about it to give something a go. And also give yourself a window of time and have some realistic goals in place to measure and check in with yourself and give you that boost that there is progress and you're doing fine and the team are happy and nothing's set on fire. Great. Something really helpful that a friend of mine said to me was like, it takes on average 3 to 6 months to settle into a new role. So you need to really give yourself that scope as well. So learning these things, I think, as I went, and then realizing, you don't have to have everything figured out to take on a role, but having a plan certainly helps. And I love plans. I love organization. I'm definitely one of those friends that I'm not the life of the party, but I'm the reason why the party happens. That's what my friends say. They're really good skills to have, right?
I need a friend like that. I'm the opposite. I will go to the party sometimes.
Yeah.
If it's over by 10, I will be there. But I'm not organizing anything.
Got to be in bed by 10:30, right?
Exactly. You said you didn't feel you were ready, which we hear a lot. I say it to myself all the time. I don't feel like I'm ready. I just wrote a Substack article recently where I feel like when people say that, it's like waiting for Godot, where you may never feel ready. What made you feel ready to start communicating for impact? And before you say, I didn't feel ready, what made you push through that feeling and just do it anyway?
Yeah, there were some things in my life that kind of pushed me to realize that if I don't do it now, I think I'm going to really regret and wonder what if. So I found myself in a role and I love the team I worked with, and I worked on fantastic projects. It was fun. It was brilliant. I got them to a stage where they were absolutely fine. They were fine. My usual goal when I'm working in a big role like that is to write myself out of a job to get the team to a point where they can succeed and I can identify the talent within that team or within the network that will replace me so you can move on. That's a good approach to take. And they've gotten to that stage and I was like, well, I've achieved what I wanted to achieve here. The team are doing great. My life, I'm entering a different stage of my life where I need to have a bit more flexibility to spend with family. And I can't really work this rigid structure of these set days and times. So I need to have that. This feels like a good moment. And also the opportunity I saw with the type of projects I wanted to be doing more of. So I love producing audiovisual content for educators and seeing the doors that opens. I've seen it happen for numerous teams I've worked on. I'm like, oh, this is brilliant. I really want other educators to have a slice of this because I can see the impact it has. In the case of the business in Hong Kong, going online and using video first enabled the business to survive COVID and all the political unrest that made face-to-face training not a possibility. So that business not only survived, but it thrived because it was ahead of the curve. And with EF as an example, using video first training for hyperclass enabled that to roll out really quickly to 3,500 teachers around the world who don't have, again, face-to-face access as a training option. And to see how all the other material that we created around that had to engage people and get them excited and become fans and really on board with that change, a big change, to go from teaching on something that feels like Zoom to something that's much more complex, given the setup at the time, but obviously had big benefits in terms of what it meant they could do as teachers and for learners. That was just terrific to see. And I just thought, I don't just want this just to stay here. I want more educators to have this and I want to have more impact, and I can see the impact this could have for so many people and so many organizations. So I want to do it. So it was accumulation of all those things coming together, like the flexibility, having achieved what I wanted to do, seeing the opportunity and being like, oh, I've been wanting to see this for a while. I should really give it a go.
I love it. I was listening to one of your interviews on another show, and you said basically that, but I'll quote you here, that you said, I'm a believer in this. If you really want to do something and it fits what you want, even though maybe the timing is not right for it, it's just to go and explore the opportunity because you never know.
Oh, terrific quote. Did I say that?
You did.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I did find that just the feeling, if you listen to your inner thoughts, conscience, whatever you want to call it, I could feel that if I kept on ignoring it, I just thought, no, I'll put it off. Stay another year. I'll stay another 6 months. Oh, no, I'll stay another 3 months. No, I just no. It's an idea that was eating at me. It's almost like this inner voice. No, go do it now. And I'm really glad I did. I don't know
Path
if you've
of
ever
least resistance is always easier, right? Stay another 6 months, stay another year.
Yeah, comfortable, right?
Did you start communicating for impact while you were still there in Hong Kong? Or did you completely, because some people, did it start as a side hustle? Let's say you build up. Some people see that as the safe route, keep your job, keep making some money, build something up on the side, leave. Did you jump ship and just say, I'm in, let's go?
So Teasel Pop was very much a foundation. Like, it's a portfolio piece, but it's an important portfolio piece. So I did start that while I was working full time and I think this is useful for anyone, whether you're thinking of starting a business or you're in current employment, is to have something that you own yourself, a portfolio piece that isn't locked behind payment walls, rightfully, or non-disclosure agreements, which a lot of the content I created for brands are, which fair enough, it's theirs, they own it. But I needed a piece that I felt I had creative direction over, that, I don't know, to explore. And so it did start there, but I didn't monetize that. Although I did get paid gigs from that because people got to know me better beyond the locality of just Hong Kong, which is just it's like another way of inviting people to connect, all right? And as for communicating for impact, I did start experimenting a bit while I was working. I just tested out a few ideas because I wasn't quite sure what it would be. And I was unsure whether I could do a production house, because production houses traditionally, whether it's a post house or full production with a studio, they often require a huge injection of cash. And that can obviously be quite a sizable amount depending on the studio and what they specialise in and the size. And I thought, I can't do that. And again, that comes back to that idea of I didn't have an example of someone like me in the industry doing what I wanted to do. So I experimented with a few ideas. I hesitated going fully in, even though I had the skills and resources. Not money, but I had the resources. Haven is an amazing videographer. I know all the network of videographers, right, across the world, and editors as well. So I had the people and the people who know how, but I hesitated for a while. So even after I started communicating for impact, there was this period of, I'll just help people. I'll just be a producer. Or just be a producer.
Just do it.
Just a producer. I shouldn't say that. Producers do a lot, like teachers and librarians, right? There's loads of skins that go into that and work. But I hesitated from running a production house until basically clients pushed it like, hey, I'm recording an entire course and I don't want to edit it. I'm like, yeah, don't edit it. We'll edit it for you. And it started that way. Everything I built, every brick of the production house, the pop-up studio, for example, that we launched this year, it's all been driven by my clients who are either independent educators or they work as part of organizations. They're researchers, they're professors, they're school leaders, for example. But they've all approached me like, hey, I've seen the work you do. I don't want to film this myself. Or my team have been filming it. We hate filming. We hate editing. Can you do it? I'm like, yeah, sure. And that's how it's evolved.
It's amazing. It sounds very natural, which is
very organic.
Very organic, yeah. Which is, I think, a way. It's not that you can force it. I want this idea to work, and someone can force the idea, but proof is in the pudding, right? And there's no magic to any of this. But that's why we're doing this series, share different stories, but let your clients dictate the direction in some cases. And it sounds like you've done that. I want to dive into the definition of a production house for anyone listening, because I think that's a term that we see everywhere. And I want to hear how you define it and what people think. There was a viral, at least on my network, post recently on LinkedIn, talking about like just a producer kind of quip, right? Where there was a job posting from a company I won't name, and this person like went through and highlighted like the responsibilities of what the posting was. And long story short is basically they wanted an entire production house from one person, and they're going to pay one person. And she was like, for all of the responsibilities, this is a producer, this is a script writer, this is a videographer, this is an editor. And it was all going to be for one person. And it went viral and everyone was like cheering her on essentially as she ripped down this job posting. That I'm sure things like that everywhere. Can you walk us through at least for you, what is a production house? What does it encompass? And for people that are unfamiliar with the term that might be interested in getting some work done with you, what does that look like?
Yeah, production houses can look different. So I started as a post house, that's post-production, which means editing. So people would send their podcasts or their videos, and we would do all the editing. So to remove the unwanted content, we'd even make creative decisions if the person wanted to trust us with their content. So as I come from an education background, I can make those calls. If it is an education podcast, of course. Not that I do other types of podcasts. It's not like I'm doing sports or anything, Andrew. You're like, can you imagine?
You're not doing the World Cup? What do you mean?
No. And then we do the technical treatment as well, like and add the branding. So technical treatment is making the tracks as clear and crisp as possible, particularly if you've got different sources, like guests calling in, or you're doing some recording outside, for example, on the road reporting, and then adding those brand elements, the music and stuff. So that's an example of what the Post House does, like very briefly. But we've extended to full production now, which means that we support from going from the first concept, so concept of a show, concept of an episode or a series, whatever the client wants to do, recording it or supporting them in recording it. So I met this amazing supplier, and I think it's just been terrific to have met her. A fellow woman as well who runs a production house, which is amazing. So it means now we're truly global, because I can literally say to my supplier, I have this client in Dubai who wants a pop-up studio. I need 2 mics set up, 3 cameras. I need a lighting pack. I need a videographer on site and also a lighting person. Can you provide those for me with a quote? And then I'll go and I just fly over as the director, producer. Fantastic. So we can do that now. And that's the first time I'm actually announcing that, because I met this person. I've known her for a long while, but I didn't realize, it's funny, isn't it? I didn't realize that's how we could work together. So that's amazing to have a supplier like that. Who
amazing.
Is, just got incredible resources. That means that we can do things and also hire really great local talent, which is very important to bring production to our clients and not necessarily always have to rely on our online studio, which is a good choice. But there's just sometimes when you want to do a show, or you want to do a panel discussion, or you want to do something that involves the whole student community, for example, of one client, where they want to involve students and they want to do some like different interviews and documentaries, then that makes sense for us to go and do it on the ground. But it doesn't make sense for me to fly everybody out from Switzerland because that would be very pricey.
I'm waiting for my invitation. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is something different about like when contents, podcasts, whatever, are filmed or done in person, right? There's a vibe, there's an energy in the room. We obviously do ours online for the same reason. We talk to people all around the world, which is great. We have access to people through the internet. But when you do film something or record something in the same room in person, not only does the video, I think, end up being better and you have more options in terms of editing because you have different angles and if you had multiple cameras and stuff, but just there's no delay in the audio. The energy is there. I think that there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah. And even better if you have a team there as well. There's an energy that comes with the production team and working it doesn't have to be a studio space, but even on site. And you've got that brilliant expertise of videographer, what they bring, the lighting person, what they bring, the producer, usually producer, director, or maybe both. Having that energy and just how people that work really well together spark off each other. And then the energy between the talent, the guests that are on camera, that brings a whole different angle, I feel. And sometimes it's difficult to tell, isn't it? But I think sometimes the conversations turn out differently, or the conversations may take a different direction because of that energy in the room and the suggestions, the expertise everybody brings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. I would love, anytime we can, on not this podcast, but on different shows that I'm doing, we try and do it in person because it is a bit of I'm not a very organized person. Like I said, like you have to organize, okay, we're going to go here, we're going to do this. But if you can do it, it's wonderful. Video content is something still for me, and people may be surprised when I say this, they usually are like, but still, I feel is a little bit of it's hard. It's something that's difficult, especially psychologically. In education, which is where you focus, and I do too. Since COVID, it's been a huge shift to not just online teaching, but video content. The word asynchronous is like the buzzword, right? Of asynchronous content, and how students consume content, how creators put content out. And it can be quite overwhelming of a concept for many people to get in front of the camera, to record stuff. How do you help lower this perhaps overwhelm, or how do you work with creators who are educators who, now some of them are very experienced with video, but let's imagine a profile of someone who wants to do this, has a business, wants to move it forward, wants to do video, because there's other ways to do content, but certainly when you want to stop the scroll, you're usually stopping on a video. So let's be honest with that. How do you help your clients at the beginning stages with something they want to do, but the overwhelm can be there?
Yeah, there's a few ways in which we approach it. And I think removing the barriers to entry is a key part. So sometimes people feel that they need flashier gear to start recording. There's always barriers that they feel that they don't quite qualify for yet to start something. And I think that can also apply to anything, right? Like I don't have the right running shoes, so I can't start training for, a marathon. At least that's what I'm telling myself. That's going to be.
That's why I don't do marathons. It's the only reason. Yeah.
So we start with thinking about, firstly, what do you have in terms of your equipment and what do you feel comfortable using? Let's start with that. And most people usually have a smartphone that they can record on. And smartphones have moved a long way along in terms of the quality of video and what they can capture. So we start with that to not add too many elements to that. And the second element is coming down to who you're speaking to. You mentioned people being a bit apprehensive about recording, and it is worrying because you feel like you're putting yourself out there, you're putting yourself in a position that's quite vulnerable, and you feel like the whole internet's going to see it, which that can be a very distracting thought, right?
Yeah. They won't, I promise. The whole internet won't see.
Yeah, mainly. So really thinking about who they're speaking to and imagining that person, holding that person in the room as you think about your messaging, how you talk. That's a key thing. And I think that also takes a lot of pressure off when you zoom in and you imagine the lovely people you work with, and specifically a specific person who you want to talk to who embodies and encapsulates the purpose of the content that you're creating. They're going to benefit most from it. that takes a lot of pressure off. And it also takes pressure off the metrics as well. When you may only get 10 plays, you're like, oh, I didn't do so well. Yeah, but was those 10 plays from ideal people? And are they reaching out to you? And are they the ones commenting? Because that's all that matters. It is all that matters.
I couldn't agree with you more. Vanity metrics is what I call these things. Oh, I got 5,000 views. Yeah, but all of them are not who you, like, what's the point?
Is it having the impact that you really want? Is it getting people into your world, or reading that research paper, or learning that you have this talk that's happening, or are they asking you about your program? That the metrics that really matter. And that's what people need to fixate on, because the big metrics of like likes and comments and stuff, yes, you can go viral, but I've got a viral video. I earned 30 quid from it. That's the reality. And it's none of them are my ideal clients. So it doesn't mean anything.
I think there's tons of examples, like old school TV, cable. Whenever I'm watching a show and then the adverts come on, and I just study that. Oh, who do they think is watching this right now? And 7 out of the 10 of the adverts are like, not for me. You know what I mean? So even the big companies spend lots of money to advertise now on YouTube and other places. But yeah, channels with huge audiences. But what percentage, I don't have the answer to this, but I'm imagining it's a low number. What percentage of the audience or the viewers are the actual target of that specific car that they're advertising on? It's pretty low, right? And they're just a spray and pray kind of strategy versus, okay, you don't need a big following if you have the right people watching. I'm a big believer, not even a believer, that's what we do. Like our podcast has gained some traction, but certainly we're not Diary of a CEO or something here. But
yeah, exactly.
We have the right people in the audience for us, and that's good. That's a good place to start.
Yeah. Particularly, I think our examples of our shows, the fact that we focus on a very specific niche and we've got an engaged community of listeners, I think that's just a wonderful example of that's what success should look like, not just chasing the volume, because volume doesn't always equate to be frank about it, sales for people who think about entrepreneurs, because that's what matters, right? You want sales to the right people who will experience positive impact from your work and not be selling to the wrong people who will try and shoehorn, or you're trying to shoehorn what you do to make it work for them. That's also not ideal, right?
No. It's funny to think about it, right? Like video content, I watched your interview with Jennifer Murray, right? With content versus copy. And I think this is poignant here because, I guess it's not a bad thing to think about creating your video content and then equating it with sales. Like ultimately, if you have a business, you need to make sales, you need to have money. If you have no money, then you have nothing. But then equating like this video I posted to sales is probably not the most healthy way of looking at it. Going through, as you talk about a lot, like the know, like, trust scale, right? Just is somebody discovering you for the first time? For me, LinkedIn is really just building a brand, and that's like a buzzword, but just like being known for something. And 80 to 90% arbitrary number of people that watch your content may like it, may align with it, and will never become a customer. They're just like, oh, that's cool. I like that. And I'll consume that. And then over time, the right people will, I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. If you're listening and you have never started a business, I know everyone says this and you just roll your eyes. I get it. I was there too, but it happens. I promise you. And we've had people, I'm sure you have become clients very quickly. After a couple of podcast episodes, they sign up, like, I'm ready to go. I had someone sign up over the summer who says, Andrew, I've been on your email list for 4 years.
Yep.
And now I'm ready. And it's really just, you never know, but just becoming known for something, and more about this than I do, but creating video that gets you in front of people for when they feel ready.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very rare that you just post something and then that's it. Magic wand, that's sales. It could work for other industries. Like if you've got a specific product, like a beauty product and stuff like that, like for friends I work with, or the friends that have businesses that are selling a specific like supplement or something like that, maybe you can track it that way, right? That works that way. But I think for educators who are selling programs or services or consultancy, it's not always, it's usually a bit of a long game. And I also have people that have known me for years that say to me, like, I'm just waiting for the opportunity when we can work together. I know you're there. And because I post and I talk about things and they find that content valuable, they're like, okay, yeah, maybe in a year's time I can outsource my editing to us so they can free up a lot of time, which is terrific to know it's terrific to hear that people know that I'm there for them for when they're ready.
Absolutely. And then the more people you have like that, then obviously the math will be in your favor, is the theory, right? Buyer psychology is fascinating to me because there are people, I'm not one of them, who just make very quick decisions, are very decisive people. I'm not that kind of person. But as a not as a marketer, but as an entrepreneur who does marketing, because a solopreneur endeavor, you have to assume all these different buckets in your audience, right? People who are decisive, people who are not decisive, people who have already decided that they need a solution to this problem and now they're shopping. And then other people who don't even know that they have this problem and don't know they should be shopping. When I need to buy new clothes, like I like to have the stores that I like because I don't have to decide. But recently I was shopping for the trip that I was going on that I was telling you before we started recording, and I didn't have a store that I liked. So anytime a thing popped up on my feeds, I would just pin, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. But I didn't go to the website and just buy something. I would check it out. I go into Reddit. What do people think? I go on the reviews. I pin it. And then for the week, I mean, I'm like the outlier here. This is crazy. But I pin 4 or 5 different stores, did the same thing. And after a week, I made my decision. But that's how a lot of people make buying decisions. There are some people who are very decisive, but in my experience, those are in the minority.
Yeah, and maybe, like you say, they're further along in their journey where they've already considered a lot of things, and they see something where they're like, this is exactly what I've been thinking about and looking for the last 6 months, and this speaks to me. Usually that's when I meet people that say, I've just come across your content and I see that you do this and I've been looking for this for quite some time. Let's talk. They're a lot further along in their customer journey, right?
People, as salespeople, that's the person you want to talk to. But realistically, not everybody can be that person.
Everybody's there. Some people are 4 years behind. They just take time, and that's absolutely fine. We all move at different paces, and
of course.
I'm the same with my business decisions as well. You have to sit with things and make sure it feels right and it's the right decision for you before you go ahead with any investment.
It's very normal.
The same for my
Even things that we've decided in life that we want, like a restaurant that you like, that you love, you want to go there, and then you decide, oh, I'm going to go there for dinner tonight, and then whatever, you just feel tired. I'll go another time. You want to go, and then these are just normal buyer choices. What's one strategy that you've seen work for your clients to break through some of the noise? Because a lot of markets are saturated. How do you help clients stand out to, I don't want to say to make sales, because I know that's the goal, but the goal of content isn't to make sales, it's to move the client journey along and associate you with someone who's a possibility for the offer. How do you work with clients to help them make content that, for lack of a better term, isn't generic?
Yeah, that's a key thing, because there is a lot of saturation, I feel, and people are quite exhausted, I feel, with content at this stage. I think we're seeing a bit of an ennui when it comes to content and scrolling, and people not feeling good about the content they're consuming.
Yes.
And I also speak for myself on that. Sometimes I'm like, why have I been on Instagram for 30 minutes? What am I doing with my life? What am I watching? I have to stop myself sometimes from falling down that rabbit hole. So to come back to your question, what is it that they need to stand out? So I think there's a few cliche things that people will recognize, but there's a few other elements that I bring. And this is the difference between just working with a freelancer versus working with a creative production house. Like me and my team, I have a wonderful team of people that are experts in their own fields. And the first thing is, firstly, knowing your audience, knowing who you're speaking to, that point we talked about earlier, and getting really intentional about that. Not generic things like demographics and their age and stuff and blah, 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 the boring things. Of course, you should know those, but really knowing them on a very personal level. So if you were to describe them to me, I'd be able to pick them out from a crowd. And as soon as I meet them, I'm like, oh, you're this person. I know you from such and such, really in that level of detail. So their desires and what they're working towards, and what their pain points are and problems and solutions and things like that. So knowing those and really holding them at the table, as I like to call it, they are part of the content planning, recording and editing. They don't ever leave that table. They're always with you and you hold them in the room with you. Right. The second part is the authenticity part. So being true to yourself. So while we can get inspiration from other people, I think that's really good to take inspiration. And maybe there's a period where we try things on, we try on outfits to see if this fits. Does this fit? Is this what I like? Is this my style? You can't really find your style by just staying still and just planning. Creativity does lead you to your style, and that is a process. And while it may feel cringe to try something new, It can also be I think it's very endearing to the people you're speaking to, because they'll also see your evolution and they'll track that. And that's authenticity in itself. So really finding what your vibe is and leaning into creativity as a way to do that, and creation as a way to do that, whatever that form may be. And finally, it's about taking a few creative risks. Like, there's so much advice out there when it comes to videos and podcasts, right? I think if you take videos like, oh, you need a hook, you need a visual hook. Oh, you need a trending audio. Or do these B-roll videos with text over them and you get high plays. Well, that's not creativity, that's reductive, and it flattens content. So we start seeing the same sort of content, same sort of formulas. So creativity should, if you work with somebody like myself, I'll really lean into what makes you tick, what makes your audience tick, what some cool things you're working on. Oh, you have that hobby? Can we use that in some way? That's cool. I met with a client today and we storyboarded a pitch video we're doing together. And I know she loves being outdoors and exploring cities and stuff. So we're going to record in the city because we're going to do that. We're going to be moving. We're going to be talking because that's part of her. So we're going to do that in the coming weeks. And I can't wait for that. But that's an example of what's unique. And I don't think we would have come to that. We certainly wouldn't have come to that conclusion had we not sat down together, tried on a few different ideas and thought about what really is important to her and how we can bring that to the video, and so she can have her own style and something that is truly unique, but it's unique because it's her.
I love that. And that's, like you said, it really speaks to working with someone or a team that knows what they're doing, because it just takes off. In learning, we talk about cognitive load a lot for students, right? How much they can actually process. But for us as entrepreneurs, like, there's just so much going on. And for me to sit down, like the client you're describing, and come up with that by myself, like, there's no way, a very low chance, because I'm doing this, bookkeeping, marketing, this, that, and there's no capacity for that. So to insert a team that can bring these ideas to me, or we can set aside 30 minutes a week to brainstorm and come up with this great idea, is so appealing, because I wouldn't have the cognitive load on my own to do that.
Yeah, it just adds too much, doesn't it? And it's difficult to be creative when you've got a lot of things to manage, and also you don't have a thinking partner. I find I produce my best work when I'm collaborating with others, because often I'd be encouraged to think of things from a different angle or take a risk that I want to do, but I feel I just need a little bit of a push to do. So this was definitely a bit of a push for my client, but an exciting one, because we'll be obviously recording with her. This is an example of a full production. So she feels very supported to take that risk, because, you know, there's going to be a videographer, there's myself, and there's an editor. And I think that's good. It's going to be terrific fun. And what happens is when you're in this sort of situation as well, because I meet a lot of people that really hate content. They hate making content. They see it as a chore. They don't like marketing. They see the point, but it's very much a pain point for them. I think this really transforms it when you have these opportunities to work with production houses like myself, of course. Share the load, like you say, and lean into the fun and the creativity, where you get to showcase the stuff you do and talk about what you're really passionate about, and showcase like the clients you've helped and share their stories, because that's super exciting too. And just find the fun angle. So otherwise it does come across as a bit like, oh, I have to do this video and I don't want to do it.
I like to look at all of the business parts as an experiment. That helps me, because you mentioned, views or this, or maybe negative comments, or you've used the word risk a couple of times. Creative risks, we understand, of course, but I don't know what the risk is, in creating content and putting yourself out there. Everyone can define the greatest fear of what if it doesn't work, whatever it doesn't work means. But I don't know where the risk really is, because there's only benefits. Even if no one watches it, you're still learning the skill. You're putting yourself out there, and you're developing. Your comfort zone bubble is expanding. Usually are hesitant, at least in my experience, with things that are unfamiliar, things that we haven't done before. We haven't garnered that comfort for it. And creating content, but if you you generate a habit, a weekly schedule or a bi-weekly schedule, that on Mondays and Wednesdays for these 45-minute slots, I'm doing ABC, whatever it is, I think it becomes part of your habit, part of your workflow. And then I don't know that there's a risk in it.
Yeah, there's greater risk for many to stay still and to not experiment. And I'm not just going to talk about podcasts and videos, of course. It'll start by leaning into the media format that you're most comfortable with. Start with what you know and what you're familiar with. But just experimenting and trying things. There's so much learning, like you say, that can come from that, and expansion that comes from that. And if you feel a little bit uncertain, you can always let people in on it. Hey, this is something I'm trying. I'm trying this as a mini series of vlogs or blogs or videos, whatever people want to do, and let people in. And I think that's also very inspiring in itself, where people see you leading and trying things. That also inspires people you work with or you want to work with to do the same and reach out.
Agree. I talked to John Healy in a previous episode, and he was saying that he thinks people should take 20% more risk than they're comfortable with, which was a line that I thought.
20%. That's I love.
19, whatever. Let's say. But I take the point in pushing boundaries, and just I'm not going to be a guy that goes bungee jumping, for example. That's not going to happen. But 20% or 15%, or pick a number, because I do think pushing yourself in an entrepreneurial space, it is something where to have a measure of success, however we define it, we do need to push ourselves. And it sounds like you've come full circle here from your EF days or Hong Kong days, where you were declining roles and people were encouraging you to do it. And now you're the one doing the encouraging. So there's a full circle.
Yeah. And it's the same kind of a story, isn't it? It's like you don't have to feel confident to give something a go. But I find it's a lot easier to have somebody to support and encourage, to be like, let's have a go together. Or here's how we can make it happen and try it. And how do you feel about it now you've tried it? And often people, I haven't met anybody yet that said, oh, I wish I hadn't tried that. Nobody's ever said, I regret that. They always say, oh, I'm really glad I tried that. I've learned something from that. Or look at the results. Or look at these people engaging with me. Like, oh, look, it started these conversations.
And the worst thing that can happen, that's not true, but one of the worst things that can happen is like you find out from people that they don't want this thing. And then you move on and you try something else. Data points. When people are starting, it's very hard to know what the first step should be, because I have no clients, I have no niche, I have an idea. I don't really know if people want it or if they want some kind of subsect of this. By creating content and starting conversations, you can find out that information. And they're delaying getting that information, in my opinion, is the worst thing that you can do. Just find out. And if they don't want it, they don't want it. But I'm sure you're not going to find that if it's a good idea. You'll find, okay, they want a different version of this that I had imagined in my mind, or a more refined version, or usually something that's a bit more specific, or a more specific pain point that I had not thought of and I couldn't just sit down and think of by myself. And those conversations driven by content are, I think, one of the most important things in early stages of starting a business.
That's often missing from the entrepreneurial story, don't you think? Like when we think about the big entrepreneurs, like the big influencers on social media, we don't really see their uncertainty. I don't think they pull back the curtain that much, or the number of cycles an offer may go through as they talk to clients and they refine an offer, for example, or how they refine their content. We often see the finished product or them further along their journey. So it gives this illusion that they are exceptionally talented, which of course people have skill sets and everything, but it's almost like they are talented beyond reach and we don't have that talent. And also that they come up with the ideas and that it's success, they get immediate success. So we don't see necessarily the years that led up to that, or the moments of doubt and revisions and try this, refine this, trial this, or that didn't work, let me try this. That goes into that. I'm thinking about the very, very large accounts that are very influential, that have millions of followers, because they're so established and further along in their journey. I think maybe that's fallen to the wayside because people, I guess it's great to see where they are now, but we often forget and don't necessarily see the doubt and the that flopped, which that will happen. And that's a good thing. That's a learning thing, right?
It's natural to look at the end result of someone, right? Like a language learner looking at someone who's a C2 and they're an A2 and saying, oh my gosh, like why even start? Like why? Comparison is the thief of joy, of course, as well, right? But there's lots of these examples that, okay, you don't have to become an account that has 2 million followers. Like if that's not your goal, then that don't even consider that. But there's a Jeff Bezos video that's famous of him like on his front lawn in like 1995 or something, talking about his bookstore in his garage that he's starting. Netflix used to deliver DVDs to people's houses in the mail or something like this.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like all of these like inversions, and we can look at the end product of something and be intimidated by it. I think defining what your goal is very important, and just, it doesn't make it easier, but acknowledging that there's going to be revisions and there's going to be some hurdles. But you need those data points, in my opinion, at the beginning. Yeah. Have those conversations. Expect a no. Embrace the no.
I love no's. Yeah, I love no's. Like, we should accept. I hear more no's than I hear yeses for the big pictures I do, and that's normal. But a no doesn't mean no indefinitely. It means, like, for example, no, Laura, we don't have the budget yet, but can we talk next year? Or this is interesting. Could we come back to you and talk about something else? Or this isn't right for us yet. But usually it's still marketing itself, isn't it, when you're pitching and reaching out to people? Not
and those people might tell somebody else about it or something like this, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that Laura, she's really annoying. Just try and get everybody recording. Which they're not. We can think that. Often people don't think that. They're too busy with their own lives. Yeah.
No, after they've read the email, they forget about you. Like 90% of the time. Like they're not thinking about me. I promise, for sure.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a chestnut that I've found recently that's really interesting, which is like planning versus strategy. And planning are like the goals that a business would have, things that we want to achieve, but the strategy is how you actually invoke them or execute them. Mm-hmm. And I read, John Healy told me this, and I think Alex Smith, who wrote a book, I forget the name of the book, and he's on LinkedIn too, said, in terms of strategy, you can be wrong, but you cannot be confused, which I like a lot. Meaning you can be wrong, and you can name off all these creators and entrepreneurs who are now super successful. We could probably make a list of hundreds of times that they were wrong. Mm-hmm. So being wrong isn't the failing part, but maybe being confused is. What is my strategy? Who is the user of this product or service that I'm trying to sell? Why do they need it? What's the pain point? How do I want to sell it to them? What's my conversion strategy? How does the content bring them from a platform to what's the second place? How do I get them in the customer journey? And there's lots of options inside of all of those kind of levers. You got to pick one. You got to pick a strategy. And if it's wrong, then you can change it later. But don't be confused about what the strategy is. I think that's something that I've learned recently that's really interesting.
That's really solid advice, and also very memorable as well. Just, I love nuggets like that you can write on your board and look at and think, oh, am I clear on this, or am I confusing my audience? There's often a habit I see among people to expand their niche when they feel like they're getting crickets and they're not getting the response or seeing the results they immediately want, which can just end up confusing people, because then they don't know, can you help me with this, or are you for somebody else? Oh, they're not talking to me, they're talking to somebody else. So yeah, that's also something that can happen, but not being clear on those things is,
exactly,
usually where trouble starts.
So as we almost wrap up here, Laura, what's next I've stopped asking 5-year plan questions because it's not a job interview. But, and as we know in business, things change, right?
Yeah.
And we don't know what's going to happen. And in 2019, we didn't know COVID was going to happen, and things changed. I'm not going to ask you, where will you be in 5 years? But what are your goals or your strategy for the next little bit? Where do you want to take communicating for impact?
So I want to be a lot bolder in going global. So since I met that key supplier and actually connected with her, which is fantastic. It's also fantastic to meet a fellow production house, who's a woman, much further along her journey than I am. I think it's really good to have that role model. So I'm going to be a lot more confident, for want of a better word. Now I've got the resources to be like, hey, we can come to you. You need this, we can make that happen. You want a show where I help you with the creative concept and stuff, and we see it end to end, we can make that happen. So I'm looking forward to going into spaces where I meet those people and have more of those conversations. That's something I definitely held myself back from doing, because I felt like, I didn't have this, that, and the other. Been there before. But now I feel like, I've got the resources that I can go in and do those pitches, which is brilliant. And also, I'm really excited about leaning into more creative projects. So every quarter, I usually set a creative project that's a bit of an outlier from what I normally do to stretch me. And this weekend, actually, we're recording the first video of a YouTube channel. An educator turned baker is launching. I'm very excited about the cake, Andrew, I won't lie, as well as the concept of the recording. Like anything that involves food, I'm easily bribed. So that's something very different from what we normally do. And it's a different type of shoot. It's a different style of content, but it's still an educated starting a venture that she's very passionate about. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing what I learn from that. And I'm probably not going to go into the food and beverage space. Certainly not in time soon, unless I get fed a lot of money, fed a lot of food. Maybe that would be the bribe point. But I think it's just fun just to try these things and just find out. So that's what the plan is. Expanding and also continuing to try new things.
Love that. Creative risk, right?
Absolutely.
I have another friend who does something similar to you for brands and podcasting, and they have a podcast called On the Hot Seat. The cake reminded me, On the Hot Seat, and they film it inside of a sauna.
Oh, no. I have so many questions about that. I'm gonna watch it now. Like the humidity and everything. I have so many questions.
I think it's a Finnish founder, but I might be wrong on that. But it's a creative, I mean, it's a risk, but it's a very creative concept, and I'd click on that. So I'd click on the cake. I'd click on all of these kind of ideas. Very cool. Yeah, and you mentioned other women founders as well. I think that's great. You mentioned, I think we talked earlier, statistics about female founders getting less funding and things like this. So we need more of this in our industry for sure.
Particularly in the media industry, there's very few women owners of studios or production houses like myself. There's very few. So the fact that I found this amazing supplier and I'm just like, oh gosh, you found somebody, let me hold on to you. No, let it go. Which is, it's incredible. And it's just wonderful to see women succeeding and thriving in an industry where I've been looking for them. I mean, admittedly, I do live in Lucerne in Switzerland. It's not really a media hub, but I'm very much connected to the media network. So I'm super excited about that.
As are we. Last question, and we're asking this to all the guests to try and put something together here. But if someone were to, because we're trying to pull back the curtain as well on what entrepreneurship looks like for all of us. If someone were to shadow you for a week, what would they be surprised by?
That's a brilliant question. I wonder what they'd be surprised by. Perhaps that I don't have, maybe for some people, if you're used to a certain regime of certain schedules and stuff, my schedule looks very different week to week. And that's also me leaning into my creative time as well. There's certain work I can do at certain times of the day where I produce my best work. And there's certain environments where I produce my best work. So the type of work I'm doing and when I'm doing it will vary from project to project and day to day. Because I definitely lean into what I know about myself more. And I'm able to do that because obviously I have the flexibility to do that. I don't have a teaching schedule or a training schedule like I had before. So I think leveraging that is something that often, I think it surprises people, for people that do know me and know how I work and, you know, how I take sometimes walking meetings. That usually surprises them.
I love a good walking meeting.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Just not in the winter, but it's good to just, I need more steps in my day. That's for sure. I'm very sedentary here. So I definitely need more steps. Do you have a standing desk?
Yeah, I love it.
You do? Okay. I'm thinking of getting one because I never had one, so I don't know. But everyone has one and loves it. So
the walking pads with it as well. Is that the direction you're going, Andrew?
What are those?
Okay,
I never heard of that. What's that? What is this?
Like a little mini treadmill so you can get your steps in while at your standing desk. A whole new world open to you. Yep.
Interesting.
So I'm going to search On the Hot Seat after this, and you're going to search standing desk with treadmill after this, right?
That's right. Yes, I am. Maybe not. That's a show. There's an idea there. Recording a podcast on a standing desk walking, pod walk, or sponsored by Peloton or something.
Yeah.
All right, Laura Wilkes, where can people find your work?
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Andrew. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It's terrific. For folk, if you want to learn more about what I do, you can go to communicatingforimpact.com. That's the website where we have a brilliant newsletter, the Producer's Edit, where I pull back the curtain regularly on what we do and what's happening. So if you want more of that kind of story, I suggest subscribing to that and obviously having a look around to see if there's a particular program or service that could help carry the load and help you, create the content and scale your business the way you want it.
Brilliant. All right, Laura, thank you so much. This was great. And can't wait to talk to you soon.
Likewise. Take care.